We all have a story. Full of victories, defeats, love, loss, and the unbelievable twist we never saw coming. No one has the exact same story. We are all on different pages, in different books, on separate shelves. The only thing alike is that we are all being looked at. Your words can change someone's chapters. So tell your story. All of it. I did.
My story is his story.
What is my story? My story is about faith. It's about trust. The battle between harsh reality and unshakable hope. The real enemy we fight is fear. What if I told you you were stronger than you think? What if I told you this life won't be easy, but I have lessons I've learned that you can cheat off of? When I thought it was over, new words, new pages, and new characters came long after that final chapter. Each page better than the last, because I've learned that no matter the chapter, I'm not writing it alone. And my ending isn't his ending. In fact, it's where he takes the pen.
I don't know what is doing me. I don't know my story.
It's where the pain becomes strength, when the hurt becomes healing, and where the twists become a lesson in trust. I have learned, and now I teach. I have lost, now I love. I have died, now I live. What is my story? It really isn't mine at all. It's his.
So I'll breathe in your purpose and exhale your praise. Be strong in my weakness, I'll trust in your ways. It's your breath in my lungs and your life in my veins. You're faithful to restore, no part stays the same.
So, here goes nothing.
I love that part. I tell you, this is amazing. Here goes nothing. Welcome to the #1 faith-based, motivational, and inspirational broadcast platform in the country, GMAP Broadcast Network, GMAP1.com. We are honored. We are privileged. We are blessed. We are grateful for the presence of this young lady. And I tell you what, you are in for a real treat. And I already know this is a process that we must grab a hold of, take wind of, and really allow it to marinate in your system. Because when someone has the courage to, #1, just appear, #2, to write their story, and #3, tell us about it, we have to be grateful. Bethany Bryan is here, author of My Story Continues. Bethany, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm so thankful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, please. You know, I hear that all the time, and I'm going to say this. Everybody always thanks me for having them, but I'm thanking them for having me. So welcome to the GMAP Broadcast Network, and welcome to our family. Do me a kind favor. Introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from. Who is Bethany Bryan?
Well, I'm Bethany Bryan. I was born with cystic fibrosis, and that kind of right out the gate gave me a story. So, but I am in my 30s as a cystic fibrosis patient, which is huge and very exciting. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and it is severely hot right now here. So that's a
I
little bit
used to
about
like
me.
you. I used to like you, but now I just don't. I'm in the Windy City, and we here we have what you call bipolar weather.
Yeah. Florida's like that sometimes too.
Cold here. So, I am number one, let me thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be here present with us today. Number two, I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for accepting the invitation to be a part of the GMAP Broadcast Network family. And number three, thank you for allowing us to be a part of your journey.
Thank you.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, of course, we have her here. Tell us, you have a brand new publication out, and, we're going to want to basically hear about it. Tell us about the publication that has been placed on your heart to release to people around the world.
Yes. Well, the whole reason I wrote a book is the people in my life all around me that have watched my journey on a personal level all told me, you're learning things. These are valuable lessons that you might be learning the hard way, but you should write a book. And what's really funny is I am not a reader at all. There's probably a handful of books that I've read all the way through. So I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to write a book properly that people would want to read. Like, I'm very verbal when I tell stories and I use my hands, and I'm more along like the acting and all that. I've done acting my whole life. So I was like, okay, well, I can write scripts. I wonder if I could write a book. Like, so I just sat down and started writing, literally in notes, just started writing my story from when I was a child. And the book kind of like has a timeline that's interwoven, because that's kind of how I tell stories. I rabbit trail. So you definitely see that in my writing. But I just sat down and I started writing. And in the process of me writing, I was very sick. I was the sickest I had ever been. Even though I was born with cystic fibrosis, it really didn't like show up full force until I was around 16 years old. So I had a pretty normal childhood as far as that goes. There was little things here and there, but it wasn't a big deal. My parents are super faith filled. So right away, as soon as they got the diagnosis, they were like, okay, well, she's not going to die from this. Like, we're going to do everything we can medically for her, but also teach her that, this disease is not her identity. It's not her label. And they really like helped push me to, do things like be in ballet, or I did a competition through my church, and it involved like a lot of physical strain and activity. And so, in a lot of ways, these things really did help me kind of forget about CF, and it was kind of in the background. And I was like, well, okay, maybe I am like, I don't have limits. And it wasn't until I was around 16 that things started changing with my lung function. And they actually introduced me to the nebulizer and things like that, which I had never really done breathing treatments before. So getting onto that and getting onto, different medications and everything while you're like a teenager, when you're trying to fit in with everyone, was like a really big blow to the ego, or whatever you want to say. So that was a lot to adjust to. I kept it hidden for a long time. Nobody in my church, knew about it, but my youth pastor, that I would go in his office and like sit there and cry and just kind of unload about this other me, kind of like that I was keeping from everyone. And I remember the day that I felt on my heart that I needed to share about CF, despite what other people might think, or how that would kind of change how people look at me. I went up and I gave my testimony in my youth group. And this was before, the healing that I've been praying for my whole life. It was before all of that. I was just having like really good little glimmers of hope. So sometimes with CF, like, you have ups and you have downs. So I would have like a really good visit from the doctor, and I'm like, yes, this is it. Like, I'm healed. This is great. My body's doing good. And then a couple months later, you get a bug or something, and it kind of knocks you down. So I went up and I told my whole church that, I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, but I'm being healed. Like, and I just proclaimed it. I was like, I'm going to be healed. Like, I know that this disease is not going to take me out. Like, my faith was just sky high. So, and things did change, a little bit. Like, from then on, people always like, how you feeling? That's kind of the first thing that they would say to you. So in that way, it changed, but I still would like, push myself, push my limits. And, things kind of just progressively got a little worse with my health. I ended up getting married, and he knew nothing really about CF at all. Raised in a very like faith-filled environment. So both of our faith combined was like explosive. And I ended up actually walking away from like all of CF treatment. Number one, because of just the faith aspect of things. And then number two, because a lot of the treatments that they were giving me weren't like really, really working well. And the doctors didn't even understand why. They were like, you're having some symptoms that you shouldn't be having until like years down the road. But it would just, this would not agree with me, this would not. And CF patients, like, we're all different. So very rarely do we all have the same effect of medication on our bodies. So I ended up walking away. And in a way it was freeing, because I always had like this little, side of Bethany that didn't want to be sick, I felt it was very, unfair to be born with something like this. Like, I didn't choose this, but this is my choice, and I'm walking away from this, and I'm just going to put my, my life in God's hands. So there was a lot of, kind of selfish reasons behind it as well. But there was also all of these like little nuggets of hope that the Lord would give me throughout the years. And I remember having a dream when I was younger, and in that dream, he gave me like a solid point that I've always held on to. And in the dream, he told me that my fear was bigger than my sickness. And so that hit home, and I was like, wow, that's true, because the fear keeps me from, pushing myself or doing things because, oh my gosh, can my lungs handle this or this or that? Like, there was a lot of fear around it. Plus, like, the whole fact of it being, an incurable terminal illness, that brings fear in itself. And so there was a lot of like separation anxiety that I had to deal with my family. So for instance, because my lungs were not perfect, like, I'd have these moments where like if I exerted myself too much, I would feel like I was going to black out, and I would like look around like, okay, where's my mom? Where's my dad? There was so much anxiety and fear that would come from having the illness. But when I walked away from everything, it was like this freeing burden of like, well, at least now the doctors can't tell me what's wrong, because like, I don't know what's going on in here, but I'm just going to try to live my life as if I'm a normal human being and just trust that God's going to take care of me. And I ended up getting so sick. But as I was getting sick, it was like my body was getting weaker, but my faith was just like exploding. Like, it was so, it was unreal, really. Just the battle between, okay, reality is I'm definitely like physically dying. Like, I was skin and bones. I ended up getting down to 71 pounds, and having like no oxygen, like no lung function at all, hardly. But I couldn't tell you exactly where it was because I wasn't going to the doctor to check. I just knew I couldn't walk from like one room to the other without stopping and like trying to breathe in. I was always like patting myself to try to like relieve, because CF, you have a lot of like mucus buildup in your lungs. So trying to just like get any kind of little bit of, open airway. And so that was one thing where I was just constantly doing natural things to try to help, but the natural just wasn't enough, so I was taking scripture like medicine. I was doing everything I knew to do to try to live. And so in the middle of this process, I learned hardcore lessons on trust.
Wow.
On
Well, you know
trusting
what?
God for
Let me say this. I was going to move on and ask you about some of the challenges you had to face, but it's obvious that you have shared some of the, oh my goodness, some of the great challenges that you were able to basically overcome. You were able to move forward. That's inspiring by itself. That's amazing. And I oh my goodness. Let me rewind the tape and press play, because one of the things that I would have shared with our viewers and listeners is what inspired you. Well, I don't really have to ask you that question. And what are some of the challenges? I don't have to ask you that question. But I do want to say, through it all, Bethany, through the challenges, through the inspiration, through the trials and tribulations, what was the writing process like when you realized it was time to put this all in writing and share it with the world? What was the writing process like?
Well, the amazing thing about it is, as my body was dying, I was writing this book. And so this was honestly, as much as I wanted to believe that I was going to live to see it published, it was kind of like my last story. It was, as I'm writing my book over here, I'm writing my funeral over here. And the book has 3 endings. And the endings, you can see, like all the people that have read it have told me, like, they can see my growth, like how my attitude was changing to, like, the first ending, it's like, this is it. Like, I'm as sick as I've ever been. Like, I don't think I'm going to make it, but my story continues, and I was just speaking in faith, even though everything around me said, we're not going to make it. And then the second ending, it was like, okay, I'm a little hopeful here. And, his story continues. And, like, this is God's story, like, telling through me, because I'm done. Like Bethany is done. And the only thing that's keeping Bethany alive is his spirit, is his word every day that I was taking like medicine. That's the only way that he kept me for 2 years off of any medication, was just his word. But his word is enough to sustain you. And so that's how this book was like being written, and like almost like a diary format of like, okay, this looks like the end. Okay, maybe it's not the end. And then by the end, it's just like a crazy plot twist that you'll never see coming.
Yeah.
How God like got me in this place.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna say, boy, I watched the book trailer, and I watched the book trailer again, and I watched the book trailer again, and I mean it. I'm like you were. I'm not a reader. God knows I am not a reader. It took some great challenges for me to read the Bible. So I am not a reader, but I really enjoyed it, and I got somewhat emotional. I'm not gonna tell anyone that I started crying. I'm not gonna tell anyone a lot of things, but I did get emotional, and I don't want to let anything out. I don't want to tell anybody anything that they shouldn't know without showing their support and going out and getting a copy of this book. So I want you to focus on one thing. I want you to focus on where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. See, and that's a process that people may not understand, because where I've been and where I am, I do not look like what I've been through. So what's next for author Bethany Bryan? If someone were to ask you that question, what would your response be?
I love to speak. I love people. And the whole reason I wrote this book was, for people to just, like I was saying, learn those hard lessons. There was some really key points that I felt were very important to people that are dealing with, whether it's physical, whether it's mental illness. I have felt it all. I have felt, spiritual, emotional, and physical, death in different ways. And the whole concept and the whole like idea of the book is trust. And you can trust God through these different battles. And so I don't know what the Lord's going to do. I remember, when I finally got this book published, which it was 3 years in the making for this book. I remember putting it out there and just going, God, do what you want with it. Whatever you want to do. If you want me to speak, I've always kind of been around youth groups and things like that. And that, the youth would like come up to me and just like, Bethany, tell us one of your stories. And so I love telling stories, and now I get to tell my own. And it's a really cool, feeling. And it's a really exciting time for me, because not only am I the healthiest I've ever been, I've been given a whole new life. I've been given a whole new, chance at life when I thought it was over. But because my spirit kept saying, no, it's not, I didn't give up. And it's just, it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing the way that, like, what I had prayed for all those years is happening, and I still have cystic fibrosis, but, thank God for, medical treatments and such. And that's like a whole part of my story is I ended up going back to the doctor. And like, it's a huge, like, just, it was like a pill to swallow, there's like a little bit of pride there of like, I'm back, kind of thing. But those 2 years of just me and God, like, that was him showing me that I can sustain you, but I know for a fact that the Lord gives us medication and gives us doctors to help us. And there was a famous minister that was talking while I was praying back and forth about what to do, what to do with my life. I ended up being completely alone right during the pandemic and everything. And so I went through like a car wash season of just like, God, what are we doing? Like, you have to help me. I had to get my driver's license at like, I was a lot older than most with getting my driver's license, but there was so much going on. And I remember just like praying, and a minister on my television was like, Jesus isn't walking around just healing people anymore. He uses people to help heal people. And that touched me. And I was like, I have to go back to the doctor. Like, I have to go back. And when I went to go get my driver's license, I heard like the lady talking to another lady about, oh yeah, you need a doctor's note to show that you can drive. In my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I was still really sick. I hadn't gone back to the doctor. So I was like, I got to get a doctor's note. So I have to go back. Like, it was like, God was like, go, like, go back to the doctor. I got something for you. And believe it or not, there was a treatment that had come out a year before that changed cystic fibrosis in a big way. Like, it was a groundbreaking treatment. And I just so happened to have like the perfect qualifications for it. So here I am, 71 pounds. Like, God had been showing me though, like, I was getting a little bit healthier here and there, even before medication. I think that was just his way of like showing off a little bit. But so I ended up getting on this treatment, and like overnight just changed my life completely. And it was like the Lord had taught me this really crazy lesson of, faith and medicine can go together. And so I feel like that's kind of a big preach of mine. Even with the CF community, my doctors are like, hey, you need to start speaking. You need to start speaking to the community about it, because faith and medicine, it's like faith and works. The Bible says without, like, you have to have works for faith to work. You can't just sit here and go, Lord, I'm asking for you to heal me, but there's options, to help the matter, and you're just rejecting them completely.
Yeah.
And so I feel like you take the medication and you put it under the right filter. Like, every time I take my medicine, I'm like, Lord, thank you that there's no bad side effects. You touch this medicine, you allow it to work the way it's supposed to. Amen. And so I'm still talking.
My story continues, and wow, just to clarify, you know what? Faith without works is dead, and that's something that, see, don't you get me started here, because I can really get started, but I tell you, it's amazing, because when you think about some of the things that you've been through, and everyone, and I mean everyone, has a story. Everyone has been through something, has just come out of something, or is getting ready to go through something. And I tell you, if all I can say, everyone has a story, and if it's your responsibility to share that story with others to
Mhm.
encourage and motivate them to embrace the faith that we were just talking about. Now,
Mhm.
I say that because I tell you, you're inspiring me because see, and I'm gonna give it away. People don't know, Bethany, that when I first got into ministry and I first started preaching, I would have to go in my office and tell people I need to be alone.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is they had no idea I had to go take a hit of a drug in order to come out and face the people. I couldn't
Mhm.
just do it out of faith because my faith was already dead. I didn't know what to think, what to do, what to feel, what to say. So I had to go get me some what they call encouragement. Well, now my encouragement comes from up above. And the stories that you have, the stories that I have, the stories that we have as a people, oh my goodness. Okay, you know what? I'm going to stop right there and say, when you think about the process and when you realize and look over your life, your journey, your story, and you come to a conclusion that, okay, I'm Bethany Bryan and I wrote this book to encourage, motivate, inspire others. I'm not going through, I haven't been through, but I'm still going through a
Mhm.
process. When you look at your current situation as an author and you say
Mhm.
I am because whether we like it or not, you're an author now. So as an
Mhm.
author, when you look at being an author, how, when it's all over said and done, Bethany Bryan, how would you like to be remembered as an author?
Someone who was real. I feel like when you put your own story out there, especially, it's so. I had like I had anxiety attacks. Like right before it was released, I had all these doubts of like, oh my gosh, should I? Should I release this? Like, I don't think I should. Like there were, and I went through so many editing processes of like, okay, take this out, take this, like, oh my gosh. And finally I just had to sit back and breathe and say, this is my story. It's real, it's raw. There's it's not like a pretty film. It's not. There's dirt in it. It's just that's the way that life is. It's not this cookie cutter beautiful story as much as we would like it to be. But I feel like people need to also see the scars. People need to see the parts where I struggled and I got down and out. And because somebody that's reading it might relate to that part. What if they relate to that Bethany instead of like the strong faith filled one? You know what I mean? So I remember putting it out there and just kind of like, all right, people are going to say what they want. People are going to, the whole thing about writing and putting it in somebody else's hands is they can think what they want of it. And that's a good thing, or that could be a scary thing. Thankfully, all the feedback I've got so far have been really good. There's been a lot of people even close to me that would say, I didn't even know that, that was in your story. So clearly I shared it all, And so I feel like that's what I want to be remembered as, is somebody who was transparent and real and said, yeah, Christianity is not a cakewalk. It's not easy. The Bible said we're going to have like difficulties, but we have a hope. And that's what makes us different. So that's how I want to be remembered.
Wow. Well, I heard you say that, and that sent sent goosebumps all over me because that's such a. Sometimes people don't even realize how such a powerful statement that they have made, and I always say this, Bethany, and you are one that I'm sure can relate to it. Your destiny was determined before your delivery. And
Wow.
people, they don't
That's good.
embrace that because they're not sure. No, no, no. I said, I'm just going to be honest with you because, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because you must, as a faith-based, faith-walking Christian, you must embrace the process. And the process is not sometimes hard, it's never easy. When you look at what Jesus endured while he walked the face of the earth, and people would spit on him and beat him and rip his skin from his body, and everybody around him hollering, crucify him. You know, if that doesn't sound familiar, I don't know what does, because I can recall a lot of people saying, crucify me. Yeah, but the bottom line is, when you realize that you're willing by faith to embrace the process, then let me tell you this, your destiny is inevitable.
Yes.
I have realized that you are one young lady that has decided to embrace the process and allow your destiny to surface. What's next? What's next? What's next for you?
A lot of people have asked me if there's going to be, a continuation. But right now I'm working on kind of starting up a little book tour. So I got a few churches kind of asking me to come and speak. So I'm working on that. I'm working on, hopefully, like, I would love to fill up my calendar and, speak anywhere that I can and just encourage people, in their process. And one thing actually that I remember praying when I was kind of at the end of the book was expedite the process. Like, I remember praying that. And what's funny is he did. He literally, like, after that last doctor visit there, like, everything turned around, and it was such a quick turnaround. And I was like, man, it's so crazy how fast the Lord can do things. But I want to just encourage people to write their own stories. Like, that's a huge thing that I also do, which is funny that you mentioned that. So I made t-shirts, and it says faith and fear, and the fear is upside down. So when you look down, you're in fear and you're stopped. And if you try to walk forward when you're looking down, like, you're going to run into stuff, so faith is looking up, faith is looking forward, moving on. And on the back, it says, my story continues. And I didn't put Bethany Bryan or anything like that, because when people wear the shirts, I want people to say, okay, what is your story? It's kind of like it's a conversation starter, because all of us have stories that need to be told. And, just like in the book promo, your words can change somebody's chapters. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach, hopefully, like, all these lessons that I've learned, and also encourage people, like, let's go write your own story, like, tell it. Once you get it out there, it's very therapeutic. It's like a big deep breath of, like, I did it. My life's out there. You can think what you want of it, but I'm proud of it, and here it is.
I want to know, and I'm sure that our viewers and listeners want to know as well, how can they show their love, care, concern, and support, purchase a copy? Where can we find your publication?
Yes. So, linked to my website, I have, like, Amazon. You can get it off of Amazon. I know it's mainly online right now. I don't have, there's, like, a couple bookstores here locally that are trying to pick it up. But mostly you can get it, like, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, these kind of things. You can order them. But if you want a signed copy, you can actually go to my website and just send me a message. And also you can sign up for my monthly newsletters that we're about to launch. And, I'll send you a signed copy with a key necklace if you want. Like, I got these little keys that are, once you are going through the book, you'll read about how the keys are, like, super important to me.
Something. And of course, we're not going to allow anyone to forget the fact that, of course, if you don't know, now you know. Bethany Bryan is one of our featured authors on the GMAP Broadcast Network. And all you have to do is simply stop by our platform at gmap1.com. I'll say it again just in case you missed it. GMAP, the number one, not the word one, gmap1.com. Click on the tab that is simply titled Featured Authors. It will take you to a location where you will be able to find a copy of the publication that I'm currently showing you on our screen. Click on that publication. It will take you directly to the necessary location to find out more intimate information and details about the author as well as the publication. And I must say this, when you decide to go out and show your support, and you may stop by a location such as Amazon. I mean, some of us are used to what we're used to. If you do, I need you to do me a favor. Take a few extra moments and leave a review. Leave a review. I'll say it again. Leave a review, because it's so important what you think, how you feel, and what you insist and or encourage others to do. Leave a review. Bethany will appreciate it. I appreciate it. Amazon appreciates it. And the other viewers and listeners will appreciate it also. Listen, Bethany, I want you to share with our viewers and listeners how you can be reached, because I know that there may be some people, someone who you are encouraging and or inspiring, and they have their story, and they may in fact want to reach out and connect with you on a more individual. But it's almost like being in church. I don't want to tell everybody, but I'll talk to the pastor. Listen, they may want to connect with you. How can you be reached?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I am actually, that's part of my part-time job is as a social media manager. So I manage my Facebook page, I manage my website, and even on the website, they'll have like a Contact Bethany bar. You send that, like it goes directly to my email. I also have a personal email of Bethany's Story Continues at gmail.com. You can go there. I check them every day. I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to hear your story. Even if you don't have the book, like I want to hear your story. I want to hear about your journey. We can learn valuable lessons from each other. So reach out to me. I am right there, and I love to talk too. So, but if we end up talking, like we'll probably get each other's life story.
Boy, I'm going to say this, and I love to talk too. So, it's kind of funny that you said that. When all of this first started for me, when I first got into basically broadcasting and doing a show, I had one listener, Bethany. I had one listener. And the ironic thing is that one listener was me.
Yeah.
So it was kind of funny, because even my wife walked up to me and she said, honey, you must really like listening to yourself talk. And I said, but every time I open my mouth, I feel like I'm speaking to 1 million people. And I'm going to tell you, if we rewind the tape and press play right now during this conversation, the word faith comes up. And I maintain faith even when I didn't really understand what it meant in the Bible, because we can all take that word faith and say, hey, Bethany, faith without substance is dead. Works is dead, and faith, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And, we can go the biblical version, and most of us still won't understand what that means. And I've found a way, like you have. It's almost a conversation starter, like you said. I love that. I want one of those T-shirts. Large is okay with me. Okay, now, faith. I want you to do me a favor, Bethany. I want you to take the first letter in each word. For all I trust him. For all I trust him. See. So out of everything, my wife looked at me and she said, have faith and keep moving forward. You can let everything else go. They can take our home, they can take our car, they can take our jobs. We already ain't got no money, so they took that. So trust him. And by the grace of God, we are broadcasting after almost 18 years in over 176 countries. We averaged over 1,300 viewers and listeners a day. We've been nominated 6 straight times for a Stellar Award, and I'm just getting started. I am like a kid in a candy store. And my dad took me to the biggest candy store in the country and said, son, go get whatever you want. And look at me. I came back with a pack of Jawbreakers. My goodness. I mean, I kept it simple. So, with that being said, Bethany, we are so grateful, honored, privileged, and blessed to, go ahead and check off the tip of the iceberg. My story continues. Bethany Bryan is the author. She's a featured author on GMAP. You are, you're going to hear a lot from this young lady. I'm inspired. As a matter of fact, we had a gentleman by the name of Gerald Everett Jones, who he was doing a little test run with me yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I was airing your trailer, your promo trailer, and he said, Kevin, I was just captured by this. It literally, and I quote, brought tears to my eyes. It is so powerful. And I said, you know what, Gerald? I said, I'm going to have a conversation with her tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And he said, well, I appreciate you telling me that, but I want to invite her to be a guest on my show. He does a weekly program here. As a matter of fact, he'll be on the air tomorrow. Every Friday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Gerald Everett Jones, Thinking About Thinking is the name of his program, and he'll be here tomorrow. He wants to, at some point, connect with you and, of course, have you as a guest on his show. So that will be taken care of. Bethany, I am so grateful that you have taken time out to be here with us today. I want you to know that you have our number. You can pick up the phone, call, text, chat, tweet, whatever you do. Let us know how we can assist you in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And I want you to also know that the answer will always be yes, and you will never, ever have to ask us twice, okay?
Thank you so much.
You know what? And we're talkers, right? See. Wait a minute. Let's get this straight. We're talkers, and I just said all of that, and all you had to say was, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I'll send you a shirt, too.
You know what? I'm going to be waiting for that shirt. Bethany, I thank you so much for being here. Of course, we are going to have this a conversation available for your viewing. If you have missed any part or any portion of it, I am going to make sure that we upload it on our YouTube channel immediately. Send it over to Bethany. Put it on her Facebook page. Whatever it is that she can do it. But I thank you so much for being here. I'm grateful. I'm honored. And, of course, we are going to invite you back. And if there's anything we can do, please let us know. Until then, I want you to have a fantabulous rest of your day. Continue to be blessed and be a blessing. They love you. You love you. I love you. We love you. And you continue to do what you have been blessed to do, okay?
Oh, thank you so much. This was such a blessing.
We shall be talking to you again soon. Until then, take care, take it easy, and if it's good to you, take it twice. My story continues. And Bethany Bryan here on the #1 faith-based motivational and inspirational broadcast platform in the country, GMAP Broadcast Network, GMAP1.com. God bless you.
We all have a story.
full of victories, defeats, love, loss, and the unbelievable twist we never saw coming. No one has the exact same story. We are all on different pages, in different books, on separate shelves. The only thing alike is that we are all being looked at. Your words can change someone's chapters. So tell your story. All of it. I did.
My story is his story.
What is my story? My story is about faith. It's about trust. The battle between harsh reality and unshakable hope. The real enemy we fight is fear. What if I told you you were stronger than you think? What if I told you this life won't be easy, but I have lessons I've learned that you can cheat off of? When I thought it was over, new words, new pages, and new characters came long after that final chapter. Each page better than the last, because I've learned that no matter the chapter, I'm not writing it alone. And my ending isn't his ending. In fact, it's where he takes the pen.
I don't know what he's doing. I don't know my story.
It's where the pain becomes strength, when the hurt becomes healing, and where the twists become a lesson in trust. I have learned, and now I teach. I have lost, now I love. I have died, now I live. What is my story? It really isn't mine at all. It's his.
So I'll breathe in your purpose and exhale your grace. Be strong in my weakness, I'll trust in your ways. It's your breath in my lungs and your life in my veins. You're faithful to restore, no part stays the same.
So, here goes nothing.